summer, I went through several challenges which led me to become extremely stressed and overwhelmed. Right when high school ended, I decided to start running every day. I decided that that would be my me time and help me relax and just forget about everything for a while. I've always been active and participated in sports, but this summer I was more dedicated and determined to run every day and make sure I got a workout in. After several weeks into running, I found myself sleeping better and realized my mood had increased. After the summer was over, I'd ended up losing 15 pounds, and honestly, I'd never felt better. Like most know, college is stressful and time-consuming, and I slowly stopped working out and running like I used to. I saw in just the first month of college that I was not as energized or as confident in myself, and the reason I tell you this is to inform you that exercising regularly is extremely beneficial in many ways. So all of you are familiar with exercising, whether you do it or not. However, you may not know how valuable exercising is for you and your health. Some of you may want to be more physically active, but you don't have a strong enough desire, or even you don't have time to do it. Therefore, I want to explain why everyone should at least make a little time for themselves and work out like 30 to 45 minutes daily. For my credibility, I've experienced how beneficial regular exercise is for my body. I've researched and analyzed information about this, and then my information comes from the article 13 Unexpected Benefits of Exercise by Sophia Green, The Benefits of Regular Exercise by Z. Hereford, Physical Activity and Health from CDC, and the Top 10 Surprising Benefits of Exercise from a Healthier Mission. So the three things that I'm going to cover is what exercise gives you, what it takes away, and then what it helps improve. So I now want to dive into what exercise can give you and how it can improve your quality of life. So the first thing that I found was relaxation. According to Sophia Breen in the article 13 Unexpected Benefits of Exercise, she states that if you work out 5 to 6 hours before bedtime, it raises the body temperature, and with a few hours, it drops back down, signaling the body that it's time to sleep. And then moderate workouts can be like a sleeping pill for people with insomnia. In the article Physical Activity and Health from CDC, I discovered that you also have a better chance at living longer. Only a few lifestyle choices have a large impact on your health like physical activity does. People who exercise for about 6 to 7 hours a week have a 40% lower risk of dying earlier than those that exercise for less than 30 minutes a week. You don't have to do any intense workouts to reduce your chance at premature death. In order to reduce that risk, you can simply do around like 150 minutes a week of moderate physical activity. It also definitely gives you more energy. It gives your muscle increased strength and increased endurance. Physical activity delivers oxygen and nutrients to your tissues. It helps the cardiovascular system work and circulates blood through your heart and blood vessels. And as well, when your lungs work efficiently, you have more energy to do the things that you enjoy. I also found that exercise heightens your immunity, and the top 10 surprising benefits of exercise from A Healthier Michigan. It helps fight off the common cold as well as the flu, and it increases the circulation of cells that fight off viruses and bacteria. One of the other things that I found that exercise gives you is motivation. Motivation when you see the results and just see and feel better. I know for me personally, it motivates me. So now that I discussed what exercise can give you, I want to talk about the things that exercise can take away. The first thing is stress. It helps manage physical and mental stress, and it increased concentrations of norepinephrine, which is a chemical that can reduce the brain's response to stress, as well as help the body deal with exiting mental tension. Another thing that it can take away is anxiety. Chemicals that are released during and after exercise can help with individuals with anxiety disorder calm down. And then running on the treadmill or track for a moderate to high intensity workout can reduce anxiety sensitivity. Another thing that it can take away is risk of cardiovascular disease. Heart disease and stroke are two of the leading causes of death in the U.S. So working out for 150 minutes a week can lower that risk, which I don't know about you, but I think that if those are the two leading causes of death, working out for a little bit is beneficial. Regular physical activity can also help lower blood pressure and improve cholesterol levels. Another thing it can take away is the risk for type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome, which is a condition in which you have a combination of too much fat around the waist, high blood pressure, low HDL cholesterol, or high blood sugar. Research has shown that the lower rates of these conditions are seen when people participate in 120 to 150 minutes a week of moderate to intensity activity. One other thing that it can take away is the risk for some cancers. The three that I looked at were colon, breast, and lung cancer. Specifically with breast cancer, research suggests that women who exercise regularly have a 20 to 30% reduction in the breast cancer risk compared to women who do not. The reason is not completely clear, but scientists believe that due to working out, the estrogen levels are lower, causing the positive results. After hearing about the things that one can be taken away from exercising regularly, I want to explain the things that can improve if you work out frequently. In Z. Hereford's article, The Benefits of Regular Exercise, he reported that exercise promotes better sleep. Regular exercise helps you fall into more of a deep sleep at night. Sleep is brought on by chemicals released in your body, and due to working out, those chemicals are released more frequently, causing you to fall into that deeper sleep. And as well as when you're well rested, people are usually more productive, and their mood and concentration are greatly enhanced. It also boosts happy chemicals. Exercise releases endorphins, which can create feelings of happiness. Exercise can sometimes lessen the symptoms among people that are clinically depressed. And because of this, doctors sometimes recommend that people suffering from depression or anxiety get out and make time to go to the gym. Sometimes, I know, again, for personal experience, that sometimes just a 30-minute workout does make you feel better and just gives you, has your day go better. Another thing is self-confidence. It improves a positive image of yourself. No matter what weight, size, gender, or age, exercise can help anyone feel better about themselves and just feel more attractive. Two more things that it helps improve is your memory and the ability to learn new things. Sweating causes an increased production of cells in the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and learning. A study showed that running sprints improved vocabulary retention among healthy adults. And then the last thing that it helps improve, which a lot of us know, is controlling weight. You're obviously burning more calories with physical activity, and that definitely varies from person to person. There's not just one set thing, how much you have to work out to lose weight and to control that. So kind of just the three things I talked about was what exercise gives you, takes away, and what it can help you improve. This summer, I felt better than I had ever before because I was consistently working out. I believe that even though regular exercise might not always sound appealing, it's definitely something to consider because of all the benefit it holds. The next time you debate whether or not you should go to the gym, I hope that you keep a few of these benefits in mind.
So, when I was a kid, whenever I felt any type of emotion or had any type of problem go on, I would always turn to music. So if I was happy, I would turn to music. If I was sad, I'd turn to music. If I was bored, I would turn to music. If I really didn't have anything going on, I'd still turn to music because it was something to do. So how many of you turn to music when you need like a sense of release or something? Or like if you're bored, or how many of you listen to music? Okay, same here. Most of us have turned to music at some point in our lives to help us with something. Distraction from homework, cure for boredom, or even to bring back a sense of nostalgia. I know that in our room we normally listen to Taylor Swift very often, along with the Jonas Brothers and Kelly Clarkson. I turn to music as well, specifically the Jonas Brothers, to remind me of simpler times and my favorite band when I was little. So as millennials, it is important that you have a better knowledge of one of the most influential bands of our time. The Jonas Brothers is an amazing band because of their popular music and their multitude of achievements. I have spent countless hours as a child and now as a college student listening to the Jonas Brothers and researching information about their lives. I looked it up for fun when I was younger, still do sometimes. Also listen to the Jonas Brothers all the time in my car. If you've ever ridden in my car, like Maya, you know Jonas Brothers, popular. My research comes from the prior knowledge that I have about the band, also some articles. The Jonas Brothers article from biography.com, Nick Jonas article from biography.com, the Joe Jonas article from biography.com, and the Kevin Jonas article from biography.com. So we're going to talk about the early history of the Jonas Brothers, the accomplishments that they had together as a band, and where they are now. So once you understand a brief history about the Jonas Brothers and how they came to be, you'll see what made them popular and led them to the success that they now have. So, an early history about the Jonas Brothers. The members include Nick, Joe, and Kevin Jonas. How many of you have heard about the Jonas Brothers before? Okay. So Kevin Jonas is the oldest. He was born in 1987. Joe Jonas is next. He was born in 1989. And Nick Jonas, is the youngest in the band, and he was born in 1992. They also have a younger brother named Frankie. He's not part of the band, but they called him Bonus Jonas because he would be on tour every once in a while with them. So Nick was first discovered at the age of 7 while he was singing in a hair salon during his mother's haircut. He was discovered by a Broadway scout, and he later had roles in A Christmas Carol, Les Miserables, and Beauty and the Beast. While on Broadway, he wrote a Christmas song with his father that was discovered by Columbia Records. Columbia Records then signed him on to a contract, and he was a solo artist, so he was the only one that was singing. And then they found out that his brothers helped him co-write their songs, and that they also were very talented. So Nick and Joe normally were the singers, and then Kevin Jonas played the guitar and a lot of other instruments. He was also good at singing, but he mostly did the music playing. So after they produced one record with Columbia Records, they got dropped due to a lack of success, and their records didn't really sell very well. So they were picked up in early 2007 by Disney's Hollywood Records, and that's where their success began. So now that you have an understanding of how the Jonas Brothers came to be, we're now going to talk about what they've accomplished as a band. So in 2007, after working with Disney Hollywood Records, the Jonas Brothers released an album that reached top 5 of the Billboard charts and went to double platinum. This included the song SOS, which is one of my personal favorites, and it became very popular. It actually reached number 1 on iTunes because probably of all the people our age that were buying it, especially girls. They became the first artist to have 3 albums on the Billboard Top 10 at once, which I don't know about you guys, but I find that super impressive to have 3 albums on the top 10 at once. These are the self-titled album that they made, a little bit longer, and the Camp Rock. So Camp Rock was pretty popular. They also starred in many shows and movies that helped their popularity take off. They guest starred in an episode of Hannah Montana with Miley Cyrus, which ended up being the most popular episode and the most watched because of them. Also, they were in Camp Rock and Camp Rock 2, which is what they're most known for. They guest starred with Demi Lovato, and also they have their own show called Jonas. A little bit of charity work that they do. Nick was diagnosed with diabetes as a young child, and the brothers developed the Change for the Children Foundation, which partners with 5 different charities and raises money for awareness for diabetes and other childhood diseases. So this expanded their popularity, and also their popularity expanded through the relationships that they had with other stars. Joe had relationships with Taylor Swift and Demi Lovato while the band was formed, and Nick had a relationship with Miley Cyrus. Kevin Jonas was older than most of the other stars, so he didn't really have relationships with them. While the Jonas Brothers had an enormous success together, sadly, all things must come to an end. So we're now going to talk about where the members are and now that they separated. So in October 2013, the Jonas Brothers announced that they were going to cancel their fall tour, and they also announced that they were going separate ways, which was super devastating for people like me who are super fans. And now we're going to talk about where they are today. So now that the band broke up, Nick has a solo career and he's still popular. Nick Jonas has songs like Jealous. I don't know how many of you guys have heard about that, but there's a lot of people that have. And then also Joe formed his own band. It's called DNCE. And they released songs such as Cake by the Ocean, which isn't very appropriate, but it's so popular. He's also been in relationships with Camilla Bell and Gigi Hadid. Also, now Kevin, he kind of fell off the face of the earth, but he married Danielle DeLisa in December 2009, and he had his own reality TV show called Married to Jonas. That was in 2014, and I don't really think they have much information on him now. So, in conclusion, a little bit of early history about the Jonas Brothers. It started out with only Nick, and he was the only one that came, and he was discovered by everyone at Columbia Records. And they came out with legendary songs that increased their popularity, but like SOS and Hold On and The Year 3000, which is awesome. Those are all my favorites. Also, they accomplished a lot as a band. They raised awareness for diabetes. They influenced millennials everywhere. They also raised money for organizations with their work for Disney Channel. And also, the members are each in different places now. The Jonas Brothers band led to the individual success of each of the members. Nick and Joe have successful singing careers, and Kevin starred in his own reality show. And also, the Jonas Brothers influenced millennials everywhere with their music and the work that they did for the planet with their Make-A-Wish Foundation. And also, I think it's safe to say that without the formation of the Jonas Brothers band, both the members and the millennials everywhere would not be the same. So, thank you. I'll have to, yeah. Oh, well, thank you for remembering.
How do you switch?
It's either 1 or 6.
No. How do you switch to the different HDMI?
Try 6.
Oh, I didn't even put it in. Go.
Yeah, you probably won't know which one you need to get it.
Here it is.
You can get a wide variety of topics.
Hmm?
I say you've had a wide variety of topics.
Yes. JROTC, or Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. The mission of JROTC is to promote young people to be better citizens. Many may be familiar with the concept of JROTC but not really even know it. JROTC is a program that's based off of a military structure. My credibility of this speech comes from personal experience. This is my freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and senior year of JROTC. So throughout high school, I spent 4 years of doing this. It was my whole life. I did everything through JROTC. Preview of my speech. I'm going to first start talking about the history of JROTC, the benefits of the program, and how the program impacts others. So by understanding the history of JROTC, or Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, you can better understand why it is a good program and why it continues to impact people's lives today. The program began in 1916 with the National Defense Act signed by President Wilson on June 3rd, 1916. The first ever program was at the American Literary Science and Military Academy in Norwich, Vermont. In 1964, the Vitalization Act extended the program. So the program originally started just with the Army branch, but then with this act, it continued to go to the Navy, Marines, Air Force, and somewhat National Guard. They're not very predominant, but there are a few programs. In 1972, females were allowed to join the program in hopes or prospect that they would join the Army or any other branch, but during this time, only females were allowed to be secretaries or nurses in the program. There are 1,600 programs nationwide, and they are heavily involved in communities, and these programs also offer special teams such as drill, raider, or academic teams, which I will get into later. The program surrounds helping community work, doing things like that, and the Scholar, Athlete, and Leader programs. Now that you have a clear understanding of the program and what it is and what it has become, you can better understand the benefits. Healthy competition. There are 3 to 4 different types of competitions that you can do in JROTC. There is Cadet Challenge, which is a physical competition where you do a series of push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, curls, and you run a 1 mile run in under 10 minutes if you are females and 8 minutes if you are males. And then here, this is a briefing program where you come together for 3 to 5 days, depending on how long it takes you to work and put your presentation together, and compete against other schools in the area. Here in the far right is another JCLC program, which stands for Junior Reserve. Junior Reserve, it's a competition, sorry. This is where you go through a series of obstacle courses or mental obstacles to try to complete your mission. This picture right here is our drill team. This is where you compete with 1,600 other programs to determine your mental, physical, and capability of holding rifles. They're not real. They are prototypes. This is another picture of Cadet Challenge, and that is a very important program here, event in our drill competition, which is inspection, where you are tested on your knowledge of the program. You also have motivation or self-improvement. In the program, your behavior inside and outside of the classroom, because JRTC is an actual class that you take, is all based on your behavior. So if you're acting up in school or not having really good grades, you won't get promoted, which is, here is our ranks. And here are examples of promotion. Here is our chain of command. Since being in the program for 4 years, I was the second in command. I was the battalion executive officer. I was the second highest commander in the battalion. And here, you can see how the chain of command actually affects the whole program. So it's important to have that mentality of self-improvement to be better for not only yourself, but for other people as well. Again, motivation. Here is another picture of being motivated. These were the top cadets in the program my last year of high school. That is, right here is my cousin, also known as my best friend. She motivated me to do better, because as a leader and a role model, it was important for me to do better for her and her sake. And then that's just another picture of our top cadets in our program. Friends for a lifetime. I started the program my freshman year of high school, and these have been my friends for all 4 years. We still do stay in contact. I did find my other best friend. We ran for military ball king together. Just a side note. So we have drill competition pictures, again, cadet challenge. It's friendships that can't really be broken no matter wherever you go. You'll always be with each other. So by understanding the benefits of JRTC, you can now understand how the program helps students' behavior. Being in the program impacts you. Like I said earlier, it's your behavior throughout the program, inside and outside of the program, impacts how well you do through the program. So JROTC instructors are there to help and guide you. The cadets usually run the whole program themselves, but the JROTC instructors are not only there to help you inside the program, but outside of the program. I remember around my freshman year, my uncle passed away. That's when I started to, act up and do bad things. And my freshman year instructor took me into his office and asked what was wrong, why are you acting this way? And I told him exactly what was happening, and he actually prayed over me, something I didn't know. And since then, I feel as if though he didn't take me into his care, we are still really good family friends now. If he didn't take me into his care, I wouldn't be where I am today, standing before you. Because of the JRTC instructors and the structure of the program, GPAs in attendance have improved by 3% nationwide. Discipline has improved. It went from 15% to 5%, and dropout rates went from 3% to 1%. JRTC gives people a second chance. If you think that you were going down a wrong hole and you wanted a way to change, JRTC would have been a great program for you. Over this speech, I gave you an overview of the history of JRTC, the benefits of JRTC, and how JRTC impacts others. Overall, JRTC is a program that completely changed my life, and today I feel as if if I didn't join the program, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have learned the leadership qualities that I have today. Thank you.
From the beginning of the 19th century, fashion has been a prominent medium where people have been able to express themselves. From wearing suffocating corsets, to high-waisted jeans, to the infamous mullet, people have been united through fashion trends. Each decade, new styles appear and last nearly 10 years until they are stuffed back in your closet and you become absorbed with the newest fashion trend. How is this information relevant to you? Each of you have been involved with fashion, whether you know it or not. This is how you express your style and your personality. Knowing the history of fashion shows you the reason for current trends and explains what era they evolved from. My credibility includes research on fashion trends, studying history which has affected these fashion trends, and my information comes from 3 websites: glamourdays.com, retrowaste.com, and speakfashion.day. Throughout my speech, I will tell you about the cause of trends, each decade's trend, and the current decade trend. Fashion has been molded and shaped according to the economical position of the country. There are 3 fashion capitals of the world, which are Paris, New York, and Milan. This is where fashion designers present their ideas, and then those ideas are adopted and spread across the whole world. Coco Chanel started presenting her ideas in the 1920s in France, where her trends evolved into the most popular styles that have continued to this day. The financial position of the country highly affected the style of clothes. For example, during World War I and World War II, fashion took a drastic turn from feminine styles to the boyish look, where girls either wore their hair up or had it all chopped off. Women began wearing pants for the first time during this era, because many of them served in the war by working in factories, driving ambulances, or taking care of wounded patients in hospitals. Women stopped wearing dresses and large hats and began dressing in unisex outfits because the economy had plummeted during the war. The government sponsored a Make, Do, and Mend campaign to encourage women to recycle their clothing to save money. Also to save money, stylists started using less and less fabric, so short sleeves and tight-fitting skirts became the new normal for women. When the economy was booming during the 1920s, trends included large, beautiful dresses for women and tailored suits for men. Because Americans had extra money, people were able to afford expensive outfits and flamboyant jewelry. So, to start through the first decade of the 19th century was the 1900s to 1914. Simplicity was the theme. Women wanted to wear clothes that were practical and feminine. This is known as the beautiful era because of the big, beautiful dresses that they wore. The world was largely at peace during this time, which greatly influenced the trend of the beautiful era. A new body figure emerged known as the S figure, which was caused by corsets, like the one in the middle, and it would make your body appear like an S, and that's what all women strive for. Large hats with feathers and ribbons became popular to go along with the famous pompadour. In the 1920s, the World War had a tremendous impact on the fashion world. With cropped hair, women strayed away from the feminine look. Skirts began to rise to the mid-calf, and the saying was, while the war gets longer, the skirts get shorter. Swimsuits became more revealing than ever, and they hugged the body instead of hanging loosely. Fashion designers started to become more daring and revealing, which is also known as the time of the flappers. In 1930, the Wall Street crash occurred, which caused a lot of confusion and chaos within the country. This created a conservative era, where hem lengths were dropped to the ankles again, the flapper days were over, and curves were back in. Ration fashion, like the picture on your right, was very popular, and it's where women wore utility dresses from recycled clothing. France became occupied by the Nazis, and Coco Chanel closed her industry for a brief time, which had a big influence on the fashion world. In the late 1940s, after the war, Paris was back in full skirts, tiny waists, and prominent busts. The feminine became the trend again. In the 60s, bobs were in instead of the beehive. Men's fashion rarely changed throughout history, but their hairstyles changed more than their outfits. Men's clothes became fitting during this time, especially their pants. In the 70s, pantsuits and tracksuits were in. Chest hair, polyester, bell-bottoms, and skin-tight shirts were the normal for women and men. People stopped wearing bright colors and started wearing earthy tones like black, gray, and white. In the 80s, inventions became interesting as designers let loose their crazy ideas. Blocky shapes were on every shirt, velvet was in, waistlines became high, and wearing accessories in multiples was very in. So like wearing two socks or layered clothing or more than one pair of earrings. Teased hair and loud makeup was very popular. I went home this weekend and found some pictures of my mom in high school to show you what the styles were like. Baggy clothing was very in, and Nike and Coca-Cola brands, that's when they started becoming big, and they stayed big until this day. In the 1990s, mullets were in full swing, but only for a short amount of time, because people started to come to their senses and realize that they looked like their barber missed a whole section of their hair. The grungy look was really in, so ripped jeans, flannels, and graphic t-shirts. And the military style from the 1930s came back, and they used borrowed fashion from the 1930s. In the early 2000s, a lot of people wore low-rise pants and really tight tank tops, blazers and skinny jeans. Everything was tight as could be. This was the first decade that didn't have a certain style, but they borrowed from previous eras. It was known as the unoriginal decade of recycled fashion. Tracksuits became popular, and the question became, how much skin could you show? Now that I have talked about previous decades, I will now discuss the current decade, which is made up of many of the past years. And I made a little timeline to show you how we came from here to this. Here we are nearly a century later, from corsets and floor-length dresses to booty shorts and mini dresses. This current decade has a mixture of many different decades. As a review of my speech, I have told you about the cause of trends, the economic impact of trends, each decade's trend, and the current decade, which is unoriginal and borrowed. From the question that I asked at the beginning of the speech, I said that I could tell you why you're wearing that shirt today. And the reason I can tell you that is because the clothes you wear communicate your personality and your comfort zone. Although fashion trends come and go, you are a unique person who has the ability to choose how you will express yourself through what you wear. Designer Rachel Zoe said it best. Style is a way to say who you are without having to speak. What is your style communicating about you?
I'm ready. What's fun, sweet, chocolatey, and delicious? If you guessed brownies, you are absolutely correct. I'm sure all of you have eaten brownies before, or most of you. In fact, they even get served in alpha dining. However, you may not have made brownies yourself, and you've always wondered how to make them. If you knew how to make this sweet treat, you could be the star of Christmas parties, birthday parties, or even movie night. I've been making brownies baking. I've been baking for at least 10 years or more, helping my mom in the kitchen whenever she bakes. My recipe comes from my brother, and I can attest to how delicious they are. Some things I'm going to be talking about are some preparations that you need to do before you make the brownies, the ingredients that go into making the brownies, the mixing combinations, and the baking process. So first, you will need to preheat the oven to 350 degrees, and then girls, you will need to pull your hair up so get hair in the food. And then you will also, if you have any pets, you need to get them out of the kitchen. And then you need to wash your hands. So now that you know all the preparations, I will give you a list of all the ingredients you will need to make them. So first, you will need 2 sticks of butter, and then you will need 2 1/4 cup of sugar, 4 large eggs, 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Fun fact that vanilla comes from Mexico. 1 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and I just use regular table salt, and then 1 teaspoon of baking powder. My baking powder came in a bag, but they could come in a box. And 1 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, one of the most important ingredients. And then you can also use chocolate chips if you want to, 2 cups. Since you know about all the ingredients in the brownies, I'll show you how to mix them together. So first you will take your butter and your sugar, and you will put it in a microwave-safe bowl. And then you will heat it in the microwave and stir about every 30 seconds until the mixture is bubbly and smooth. So you'll keep doing that. And this could also be done on the stovetop as well. This is what the mixture should look like. Then after you do this, add in the eggs and vanilla. You can add in the eggs like this by just cracking them, or you can put them in a separate bowl if you're afraid to get eggshells or whatever in it. And then you take your vanilla, and then you'll mix this together and beat it until it's smooth. So after you do this, you will gather a different bowl and mix all your dry ingredients together. So you'll mix your cocoa powder, your salt, your baking powder, and your flour. So when you mix your cocoa powder, just remember it's just like flour, so you don't want to pack it down as you do like brown sugar. And then, so you'll need 1 1/4 cup of that. And then for the salt, I just sprinkled it in instead of just using the measuring bowl, because it's about half a teaspoon. So then you'll take your baking powder and you will add that into your mixture. And make sure you don't put too much because it could make your brownies taste pretty awful. So I've not done that before. So mix all that together, and then next you will add in your flour. And like I said with the cocoa powder, you don't want to pack it down. You can use a spoon or something else to put it in your measuring cup, so you don't make a huge mess. And then you can also level off the top, so you don't get tons of extra flour in there. So then you mix all that together, and usually you're going to want to put your dry ingredients in with your wet ingredients, but for these purposes I did the opposite because my bigger bowl was the dry ingredients, so I added the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, but usually you want to do it the other way. It just makes it easier to stir. But after you do that, you're going to want to mix it together, and you're going to want to mix it until it's nice and smooth. So then after you do that, and you mix it all together, it's going to look like that. And don't worry if it's a little bit tough, because they're supposed to be very chocolatey and fudgy. So yeah. And then after that, you'll stir in your chocolate chips. If you want to put chocolate chips in there, I just use the whole bag because it's about 2 cups. So mix them all in, and don't overmix because you don't want the brownies to be too cakey. So next you're going to want to grease a 9x13 pan. I used coconut oil. And then you're going to put your batter into the pan. And scooped it out. And then you're going to want to spread it around. And try to give it as evenly as possible. So, but it doesn't matter if it's super even, because they're still going to taste the same. So you're going to put them in the oven and bake them for about 28 minutes. So you're going to set your timer for 28 minutes. So while you're waiting, you can clean up and wash your hands and do dishes if you choose to do so, because you have 20 minutes, so you can do all that. And then when they're done, take them out of the oven, and you're going to let them cool for at least 5 to 10 minutes before you eat them. And I set the timer for about 10 minutes. So, and the reason you want to do that is because you obviously don't want to burn your tongue, but it just makes them easier to cut, so they're not falling apart. So when they're done, you can cut them and enjoy. So, in conclusion, just a review of my main points. I talked about the preparations to do before you make the brownies. I talked about the ingredients that go into the brownies, the mixing combinations, and the baking process. Imagine now that you walk into a party and you bring these brownies. The only things that they had before was popcorn chips and the dreaded vegetables and dip. Don't get me wrong, these are all great, but none of these surpass brownies. The party's no longer dull, and everyone loves you because you know how to make this delicious dessert. They all think you are a master baker. So I challenge you all to go out and make these and share them like I'm going to.
In the article, 5 Other Disastrous Accidents Related to Sleep Deprivation by Sarah Klein, William Rockefeller is the engineer on a train that is traveling at the speed of 82 miles per hour in New York. He then nods off at these controls and the train derails, ending up in an accident that killed 4 people. Now this is not a crime committed by Rockefeller, but this is an accident that just needs to be avoided in our society altogether. We need to know how important that lack of sleep can be to our minds and our daily activities. So we all need sleep every night, but most of us do not realize how important it truly is. Getting enough sleep has an effect on our health every single day. Even more important as college students when we are learning every single day. So we must all focus on our sleep and how it can affect us in our daily lives and on the road. So the 3 main points I would discuss to you about sleep today are how to get a good night's sleep, the risk of having lack of sleep, and also the benefits of getting a good night's sleep. Sleep is a very important part of your daily life, so I would tell you first how to get good sleep. In the article, How to Sleep Better by Melinda Smith, she talks about the ways we can get good sleep. First is the sleep cycle. That's basically just going to bed and getting up at the same time each night and day. Now, sleeping in, which we all like to do, can really mess up the sleep cycle. Then making it harder to go to sleep the next night, which maybe you have to get up early and can't sleep in, so then your sleep cycle's all messed up. So napping is a great way for making up lack of sleep. When you don't sleep in, then just take a nap later in the day. However, naps can also make it hard to get sleep that night, so you should keep it short, like 15, 20, or 30 minutes. So what to do during the day to help yourself get better sleep? First, control your exposure to light. In the mornings, to help keep yourself awake, you're going to want to expose yourself to lots of direct sunlight. Be outside some during the day, and also you need to let light into your workspace or whatever you're doing throughout the day. So then exercise. Exercising vigorously gives many sleep benefits, making it easier to fall asleep and to sleep better. Even something like walking for 10 minutes a day will be very beneficial. Try to exercise in the morning or the afternoon, as doing it close to bedtime will make it harder to fall asleep because of your increased heart rate from the exercise. So next, what to eat and drink throughout the day that can affect your sleep. So first, you must limit caffeine and nicotine, as drinking caffeine can cause issues up to 10 to 12 hours after drinking it in sleep. So if you have like a cup of coffee at like 4 p.m., it's going to be hard to get to sleep at like 10 or 11. Also, big meals at night can cause trouble. So if you eat dinner at like 8 o'clock and then try to sleep a couple hours later, that also makes it harder to get to sleep. So try to keep your dinner time around 5, 5:30. Alcohol may make you tired, but will easily become dependent on it. So when you become dependent on it, then every night you have to drink some alcohol just to get to sleep. That's obviously not a good thing. So finally, just drinking too many liquids before beds can cause issues too, because then you'll wake up in the middle of the night having to use the bathroom. I'm sure you all know about that. So also nighttime snacks are a good thing. Now, keep it light, but also having something like a banana or a small bowl of cereal can be good and help you sleep well. But having another big meal will make you stay up later. So what to do before bed? First is the lighting. You don't want to be up on screens a lot before you go to sleep because these are not good for your eyes. Using your phone or watching TV long before bed makes it harder to fall asleep. Now this is true for any type of screens, even like things like reading lights, because this is that bright light very close to your eyes. If you must use a screen before going to bed, try dimming the screen. That should make a big adjustment and help. So especially this late night TV, that can really make it harder to fall asleep, not only because of the light, but because it stimulates your mind. It will make it harder for your mind to relax and for your body to calm down and fall asleep. So when you're ready to go to sleep, make sure the room is dark. And make sure if you end up getting back up in the middle of the night, that you don't turn on any bright lights, as it'll be harder to fall back asleep. So next, your mind. Wind down, clear your head of stress, anger, or any worry. Because managing your stress during the day can be very helpful by calming your mind at night. Also, when laying in bed, try to take a positive outlook on these things. This is where you have time to do that and think about the good things you have. And most of all, prayer. Using this time to reflect and talk to God about the things you're going through, as from personal experience, I know He's the only one that's going to lead me through. Finally comes the sleep environment. Keeping the room cool or too hot, or keep the room cool, because if it's too hot or too cold, you're going to have trouble falling to sleep. Also keep the room quiet. Any noises become very excessive distractions. Now some people enjoy sleeping with a slight noise. That's okay, obviously, if you've become accustomed to that. But random noises that come out of nowhere, try and keep those to a minimum. Make sure your bed is comfortable, and make sure your bed is only for sleeping, because if you use a computer or a TV, you're going to be distracted by that, and you'll stay up a lot longer than you had originally planned. So now that you know how we can get some good sleep, I will tell you about some of the risks of not getting that good sleep. In the article, Sleep Performance and Public Safety from the Healthy Sleep website, they talk about the short-term effects of not getting enough sleep. Sleep deprivation negatively impacts our mood, also our ability to focus, and our ability to access a higher level of cognitive functions. These functions include things like concentration or memory, also logical reasoning or mathematical capacity. The other key factor is just sleepiness. This causes us to have a lack of fatigue throughout the day, which causes just a simple lack of motivation. And this is where we won't be able to get as many things done. Next is costly preventable accidents. This lack of motivation, or this loss of focus that comes from not getting enough sleep, has in many cases caused things like car accidents or other small accidents. As we saw in the beginning, it also causes things such as large accidents or disasters killing multiple people. This happens in things like nuclear plants or much bigger train accidents or car accidents. This has happened many times. In the article Sleep and Disease from the Healthy Sleep website, they discuss the long-term effects of lack of sleep. First of all, chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, or even high blood pressure can rise of constant lack of sleep throughout your life. Also, lack of sleep is now known as one of the most common factors in obesity. So just throughout your life, it is important to get constantly good rest, otherwise it can be harmful down the road. Now that we see the risks of not getting enough good sleep, we will look at the benefits of getting good sleep. In the article, 11 Surprising Health Benefits by Alyssa Sparsino, she talks about just the few things that can be very beneficial to our health, or even our daily lives. First of all, improved grades. Think about it. As college students, if you feel well rested and you're in the classroom, you're focused on learning, you're going to get better grades. This all comes from good sleep that avoids the learning impairments that comes from a lack of sleep. Studies also show that college students who get less sleep get lower scores on grades and tests. Next is avoiding accidents. And this is just simply a very big one, as we've seen how disastrous accidents can come from a lack of sleep. So driving is harder because sleeplessness causes a lack of reaction time and also good decision making. Also, crashes due to driver's performance come from sleep deprivation even more than the use of alcohol. Finally, becoming more creative. Good sleep helps with remembering memories and making them stronger. So when you know your memories better, this has been proven to help you be a more creative person in your daily life. So in conclusion, there are many ways to get good sleep. They all are very important. Keep the sleep cycle the same. Also do the important things during the day, like eating right and getting exercise. Then at night, stay away from screens and keep your bedroom a safe or a quiet environment without many distractions. Harder to focus and succeed throughout the day are just some of the beginning risk factors, as there are also possible serious accidents that can occur from not getting enough sleep. Also chronic illnesses and obesity down the road. And then you have the benefits, like getting good grades from improved focus and memory and avoiding these serious accidents. So in our society today, we see people sacrificing sleep to get more and more done each day, or even going out later and having some more fun. People do not consider the risk to their current life or their future. Our society needs to put the health of people first, and definitely before getting one extra thing done each day. Sleep is important, and especially as college students, we need to consider making sure we always get quality sleep, because it will only help further our quality education. Ironically, I finished this speech at 2 a.m. Thank you.
So today I'm going to speak to you about how to avoid getting pulled over by the police. And it's actually really simple. Just don't break the law. That's not it though. That's not all of it actually. As I'm assuming everyone here is, because it's a college class, over the age of 16, so we're all driving age. We probably own a car or at least have some experience driving. Some of us probably, unfortunately, have already been pulled over. And if you've experienced a ticket, I'm really sorry. But we can agree that is something to be avoided. So because, it's relevant because we're all driving, personally, my credibility is that I've been driving for 4 years, and this is all self-gathered information. I've been driving for 4 years, and I have never been pulled over, which is nice. So, and these are some pieces of advice that I've come up with that could possibly help us avoid attracting attention to ourselves while we drive and getting pulled over. So first of all, something to think about is what kind of car do you drive and what color is it? Driving a 2016 Mustang as opposed to a 1996 S10, people are going to notice the Mustang. It's a nicer car, it looks cooler, that's how it works. Also, if you drive a car with a bright, bold color, such as, cherry red or something, as opposed to like brown, the red is going to draw more attention. So when you're driving those cars, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to drive those cars. When you do so, you have to understand that you kind of have a target on your back, just because those tend to draw more attention to yourself. The next thing is when and where are you driving? In terms of location, I would say the biggest difference can be found on highways and then country roads. I'm from Indianapolis. I spend a lot of my time driving up 465 and then also the 31 coming up here to Grace. So, and I notice a lot of times on 465 there's officers all over the place because it's a very high traffic area, as opposed to State Road 15 in Kosciuszko County. I don't think I've ever seen a cop on that road ever. So when you're driving on a busy highway, you have to understand that there's going to be more cops, so you have to be ready for that. And time during rush hour, obviously, more cars on the road, more cops. When you're driving like late at night, there will be less, but you have to understand that because of the visibility of driving late, you have to be careful that you don't miss them. The next is driving behavior. Most officers, I learned this in driver's ed, most officers tend to give you between 5 to 10 miles per hour going over of like grace, kind of. If you're going 60 and 55, you're not usually going to get pulled over, so that's something to keep in mind. Between the 5 and 10 mile per hour is kind of pushing it. If you go over, then if you get caught, you can expect to be pulled over. And the next thing is distracted driving. If you are texting, calling, listening to music, God forbid you're reading a book or something, anything that makes you vary your speed a lot or swerve back and forth across the road, that is also going to draw attention. That's also something to be avoided, and once again, that draws attention to yourself. And really the baseline here is drawing attention to yourself from other cars, police officers. The more you do that, obviously the more you get pulled over. So that's kind of the baseline. One more thing, well, a couple things. Lane choice in highways. Now, some of you may not think about this, but actually driving in the left lane, the passing lane, means you're more exposed because there's less cars possibly between you and cops because they tend to sit in the left shoulder of the road. So when you're in the left lane, you have to, kind of keep in mind when you're passing people, don't do it by an obnoxious margin, like passing by 30 miles per hour, even though we're tempted to. They're going really slow. If you do that, obviously there's less cover between you, other cars, you'll be seen easier. Another thing is, what are the other, your surroundings, so what are other cars doing around you? If you tend to drive in a group, I know this from experience on 465, driving in a group means that there's less of a chance that you're being pulled over. On 465, obviously, like I said, there's a lot of traffic there. Very few people go the speed limit, which is 55. And you have a lot of times what you can do is if you drive in a group, a large group of cars, if a cop, if you drive past an officer and he sees you guys, I mean, there's 10 of you and there's one of him, he can't pull all of you over. Maybe, but that would be interesting to watch. But he's not going to pull all of you over. So driving in a group tends to, offer some safety. Kind of think of safety numbers. Now, before I go any further, I'm not saying it's a great idea to be speeding because it's not. It's actually dangerous. It's dangerous. But sometimes some factors can allow you to go a little bit faster. If you're late to something, the road conditions are good, and there's light traffic, where going 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, isn't such a bad idea because it's pretty safe conditions. The last thing is situational awareness, and that's basically just being alert to what's around you. And part of that comes into recognizing potential hiding spots for police officers. One of the things I tend to notice a lot is on US 31, just north of Indy, the highway is kind of weird in that the crossroads actually go under the highway. So the highway goes over bridges, like over these roads. And so the on-ramps come from behind you and below, which is a major blind spot. You're not really going to see an officer sitting back there. So when you see something like that, it might be a good idea to think proactively. And that's a great spot for a police officer to be hiding, maybe a speed trap. In those areas, it might be a good idea to just slow down. And that's actually saved my butt a lot of times. Because you go down the other side of that bridge and you check your mirror and it's like, oh, there's a cop back there. And sometimes it might be too late, and that's unfortunate. So in conclusion, good ways to avoid being pulled over is to keep in mind what kind of car, what color your car is, and possibly behave accordingly, knowing that you may or may not be more recognizable, have a target on your back. Keep in mind the location and time, obviously. Some roads have more cops than others. Driving behavior, please don't text and drive or read a book. And just be aware of what's around you. And just a real quick disclaimer, I'm sorry, I'd like to apologize for using cops. I don't want to demean our law enforcement at all. It's just the word that comes to mind. So, that's pretty much it.
In 2013, a mother filed a lawsuit against Monster for the death of her 19-year-old son. He consumed 3 monsters in a 24-hour period prior to his death, and 2 to 3 monsters a day for the last 3 years. In today's society, caffeine is a big problem. Caffeine is everywhere around us, whether it is in a pill, a drink, or a food. Most of us are probably not aware of what caffeine can do to our body. I would like to inform you that consuming too much caffeine is not good. My goal by the end of the speech is to show you that we need to limit the amount of caffeine we consume. The 4 main points of this topic are what is caffeine, how we consume caffeine, the health risks of caffeine, and how much we spend on it. Now that I've discussed the main points of this topic, I can go into more detail for each part. What is caffeine? According to the website University Health, caffeine is a plant produced that is most commonly found in coffee beans, tea, soft drinks, cocoa, and chocolate. Caffeine is also found in some prescription and non-prescription drugs, including cold medicine, allergy medicine, and pain relievers. Caffeine greatly affects the brain. When we drink caffeine, it blocks signals from the brain, telling the rest of the body we are not tired, when truly we actually are. It takes the body 3 to 5 hours to break down the caffeine. That is why caffeine before bedtime will stop you from sleeping. On the website, How Does Caffeine Affect You? It goes over the pros of caffeine. In moderate doses, caffeine can improve reaction time, memory, and reasoning skills. Now that we have a better grasp of what caffeine is, we can now discuss how we obtain it. There are many different ways to get your hands on caffeine. The most common ways of getting caffeine would be from drinks and pills. The drinks that contain the most caffeine would be coffee and tea, energy drinks, and soda. Coffee and tea, depending on the type, normally have around 60 to 100 milligrams of caffeine. That's per drink, so if you have 2 of those a day, that's double. Energy drinks are a whole lot different. I looked up the different types of energy drinks, and there's a wide range. They range anywhere from 150 to 400 milligrams of caffeine. From the website, Can Too Much Caffeine Give You a Heart Attack? I found that 200 to 400 milligrams of caffeine is an average amount that someone should consume in a day. I also found out if you consume more than 600 milligrams of caffeine, it may not trigger a heart attack, but it will make the symptoms of anxiety worsen. And an average caffeine pill contains 80 to 200 milligrams. These pills have the same effect as those beverages do on us. Now that we know how we obtain the caffeine, we can discuss the health risks that go along with it. There are health risks that go hand in hand with caffeine. When you drink caffeine, the more that you consume, the more your blood pressure rises, according to the website High Blood Pressure. Some people that drink caffeinated beverages have a higher average blood pressure than those that do not. In the same article, it tells us that doctors are not quite sure why caffeine gives that spike to the blood pressure. Going along with the rising blood pressure, there is an increased risk of heart attacks if you drink too much caffeine. Since the blood pressure is already spiked, there is a chance to have a devastating outcome with people who have lower and weaker hearts. This would cause someone to go into cardiac arrest. Along with cardiac arrest, people that drink too much caffeine can cause what is known as caffeine intoxication. This is where they become confused and disoriented. This can cause them to get in a coma and also have seizures. But the last risk is probably the scariest one of all. Caffeine overdose can lead to death. The key word was can. It can lead to death, but is very unlikely unless you are very sensitive to the caffeine. According to the website Death by Caffeine, in 2013, 1,298 children 20 years old and younger overdosed on energy drinks. This shows you just how many people overdosed on energy drinks last year. Now that we know the health risks of caffeine, we can discuss how much is spent each year on caffeinated items. Each year, billions of dollars are made by companies who sell caffeinated items, such as Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts. Those are just too big coffee. Joseph Erdos tells us in his article, America's Coffee Obsession, Fun Facts That Prove We Are Hooked. Tells us how many cups of coffee are sold each day. 400 million cups of coffee are sold each day. That averages about to 146 billion cups of coffee a year. That number keeps rising every day and every year. Energy drinks are another big seller. According to the website, energy drink sales will skyrocket. It tells us that sales of energy drinks are expected to hit $21.5 billion by 2017. This is a lot of money if you think about it. This is even without the numbers of soda included into this. In conclusion, we realize that caffeine is a big deal in today's society. We learn that caffeine comes from many different items, such as drinks, food, and pills. Along with knowing where caffeine comes from, we also know where we consume caffeine from and what the recommended amount to consume in a day is. Another thing that we learned, that there is some major health risks that go along with it. Drinking too much caffeine can cause higher blood pressure, better chances of heart condition, and possibly death. And lastly, we know how much is spent on caffeinated beverages every year. That 19-year-old boy is just one example of what could possibly happen if you consume too much caffeine. So the next time you go for that cup of coffee or that energy drink, just remember that caffeine does have an effect on your body.
Sorry? Yeah. Are those past ones? Well, have you got your other sheet back? Okay. Go ahead, here we go. Yeah. Here. Thank you. This is
The hair of a poodle, the jowls of a bulldog, the bug eyes of a pug, the wrinkles of a Shar-Pei, the profile of a collie. As journalist Jesse Baring puts it, these physical traits would not seem very appealing on a human. However, for those of us who own a dog, we might be able to see a little bit of old Rover inside of us. We may not have sprouted a snout or a furry tail, but there is something inside of our dog so we can also see in ourselves. It may not be easy to believe that a creature as different from us could ever be similar in any way. I'm here to speak with everyone today about the different ways in which we are drawn to our pets. I believe it is interesting to see the reasons behind why and how we choose our pets and how they're similar to us. In fact, I own a dog, and I've seen many similarities between he and I. My information comes from the articles Scientists Finally Figure Out What Makes Pets Look Like Their Owners, written by Jesse Baring, the article Do Dogs Look Like Their Owners, written by Stanley Coren, and Dogs Look Like Their Owners. It's a Scientific Fact, written by David Robson. Today I will be touching on a study done by Sadiko Nakajima, the role of familiarity in relation to how we choose our dogs, and the role of personality in relation to how we choose our dogs. To get started, let's begin by looking at a study done by Sadiko Nakajima, a physiologist from Kwansei Gakuin University in Japan. In 2013, Nakajima conducted a study in order to learn which facial feature in people makes it easy to match a dog with his owner. In this study, 502 Japan undergraduates were given two different sets of photographs. Both sets contained photos of owner-dog pairs, and participants were asked to choose the sets of pairs that physically resembled each other. Several of the photos were also given masking conditions in which various parts of the dog's and owner's faces were covered. For example, photos with eye masks contained a black bar over the eye region, and photos with mouth masks contained a black bar over the mouth region. Participants shown photos with no mask were correct in their matchings 80% of the time, and participants shown photos with eye masks were correct 73% of the time. However, most shocking of all was the results when participants were only shown the eye of both the owners and the dogs. Although it certainly was not the highest percentage, 74% of participants were able to correctly choose the pairs that resembled each other. Nakajima believed that these results proved that the eye region was the key to correctly match a dog with his owner. When he tested this theory with new participants, Nakajima got an even higher result. 76% picked the right pair when they were only shown the eyes. In the article, Scientists Finally Figured Out What Makes Pets Look Like Their Owners,
Jesse Varian, a journalist for Slate magazine and an award-winning science writer, points out that this study shows us it's not about hairstyle, obesity, gender, height, or even eye color. All of the models in the pictures were Asians, and they all had similarly colored eyes. Varian states that it's clearly something that's being conveyed in a shared look about the eyes of their dogs and their people. Next, I would like to discuss how familiarity plays a huge role in the similarities between dogs and their owners. Stanley Coren, a psychology professor and neuropsychological researcher, is quoted as saying, "There's a psychological mechanism which explains why a person might choose a dog that looks similar to themselves, and it is subtle yet simple. It is true that we like familiar things. Familiarity is easy. It is something that we're often drawn to." Coren mentions that one of these things most familiar to ourselves is our faces. We see our faces looking back at us every time we look in the mirror. As a result, we may grow to become fond of our faces because it is in fact something that we see every day. Similarly, if the general features of a dog's face resembles our own, we may be more drawn to him or her. In a study done by Coren, 104 female students from the University of British Columbia were tested. They first were all shown different portraits of 4 different dogs: an English Springer Spaniel, a Beagle, a Siberian Husky, and a Basenji. Each woman was to rate how they liked the appearance of the dog, how friendly they thought the dog looked, how loyal they thought the dog was, and lastly, how intelligent they thought the dog appeared. Women were then asked questions about their lifestyles and also shown pictures of different hairstyles and asked to pick the one that closely resembled their own. Interestingly enough, the women with longer hairstyles that covered their ears tended to favor the Spaniel and the Beagle. These women rated these 2 dogs high in all characters. Women with shorter hairstyles and showing ears tended to prefer the Siberian Husky and the Basenji. Just as long hair frames the face of a person, so did the floppy ears of the Beagle and the Spaniel. On the other hand, shorter hair is more unframed and again provides visible ears. This is more similar to the Husky and Basenji, who clearly have pricked ears. Although there were still some short-haired women who preferred the Spaniel and the Beagle and also vice versa, Coren states that the size of this effect is still large enough to be statistically accurate. We can see from this study that a majority of these women preferred dogs that were similar to them in some way. As a result, we can understand that familiarity does in fact play a huge role in the reasons why we choose specific dogs over others. In a similar way, we can see how personality also is considerably evolved in this relationship. Barbara Turkson, a professor in the Department of Ethology at the Airbus University in Budapest and a specialist in dogs and personality assessment, states that humans are not simply narcissistic creatures who only create pets for how they look. Instead, personality also plays a huge role as well. Turkson decided to test whether or not this was true or not. Her reasoning? She says the relationship with a dog is a very special one. They are not simply a pet, but a family member, a friend or a companion, so we thought it might develop in parallel with these other relationships. It might be hard to believe that a dog could have a personality similar to our own, but other studies have shown that a human trait such as extroversion can be seen in dogs. This is shown in how aggressive or shy a dog can be when meeting strangers. Turkson's results seem to align with other experiments when it came to matching personality profiles. The similarities of personalities between dogs and owners was uncanny. Turkson even noticed that it was actually higher than the similarity found in married couples and friends. This experiment cannot base its results on the amount of time the dog and owner spent together, so it can be accurately said that the dogs were not simply copying the behaviors of their humans. Instead, the personality itself seems to be the reasoning we are so drawn to specific dogs in the first place. From this study, it can be shown that we choose the dogs who we believe have personalities that will be most compatible with our own. In conclusion, it is easy to see why we choose the dogs that we do. When we are searching for a pet, we are looking for one who will become a companion, and a part of our family. Today I discussed the results of Sadahiko Nakajima's study and how it has been proven that dogs and their owners share a similarity in their eyes. I also talked about familiarity and the reasons why we might choose a dog because he's familiar to us. Lastly, I discussed personality and how shared personality traits can affect how we are drawn to certain dogs more than others. I would like to end with a quote said by David Robson, writer of the article Dogs Look Like Their Owners, It's a Scientific Fact, and a journalist for BBC. Today, dogs look like us, act like us, and unlike other humans, they always reciprocate our feelings. In many ways, they are the better reflections of our own true natures. It's little wonder why we now consider them man's best friend.
Shortly after graduating from Notre Dame, Luke and his wife Sarah begin their search for a home. After a month, on Zillow, they find a house they're looking for. It's a cute little Victorian-style home in the neighborhood they desired. They schedule a visit, fall in love with it, and they attempt to make an offer. But this is short-lived because they can't find a bank that is willing to give them a mortgage. Who knew you had to have at least 6 months work experience? And what's a credit score? Luke and Sarah now live in Sarah's parents' basement while they build credit and employment history. Today, I'm going to inform you that schools today do not properly prepare students for life after graduation. This topic is relevant to you and to me because we are all students and professors, and we should consider these things for the future. I can speak on this topic because I am a student, and another reason I can speak on this topic is because I have witnessed many mistakes from friends and family. There are 3 main points I'm going to cover today, and they are some basic skills that are not taught at schools, the fact that schools are controlled communities and the negative effects that has, and the unnecessary skills that are learned at schools. To start, I'm going to list some basic life skills that many people do not learn in college. Now, this isn't to say that these skills aren't offered in some classes, because some of them are, but however, they are not in any kind of graduation requirement anywhere. In school, students are not taught how to change their car's oil or their tires. These are very valuable life skills that I think everybody needs to know. You can save money and get yourself out of what could be really bad situations. Students usually never learn how to build credit or open a bank account until after they've already graduated. And students never learn basic home maintenance. Now that I have discussed or listed some basic skills that schools do not teach, I'm going to talk about some negative effects that living in a controlled community can have. Colleges are controlled communities, and now this has many positive effects, such as public safety, but however, there are many problems with controlled communities. First, the majority of students receive some sort of financial aid by government grants, academic or athletic scholarships, loans, or their parents pay their tuition. This is a problem because many of us, it messes with our understanding of the value, true value of money. If students aren't paying bills, they tend to fail to see the value of money. An example of this would be meal scans here. Or anywhere. Nobody scans for Alpha Dining and thinks, there goes $8 for pasta again. I know I don't. Managing finances is a vital skill for the success of any individual, which is hard to learn in a controlled community. Next, with controlled communities such as a school or college, you have a plethora of resources that are easily and readily available to you for free, or what we perceive as free. These include being able to go to your RA when your neighbor is disturbing the peace with his dubstep music, being able to go to counseling or advising, or being able to just go to the nurse to get checked out, because in the real world or life after graduation, that's not an affordable thing to do, and that's just to name a few. Now for some examples that we can relate to here at Grace. In post-graduation, you do not have weekly or bi-weekly room checks. If you are a messy person, you have zero accountability if you're living by yourself, which can lead to all kinds of problems. Life after graduation, there aren't all these rules that we have here at Grace that we all know and love so dearly. I'm not questioning the value or purposes of these rules. I'm not even necessarily against them. However, many people will have a hard time transitioning to the real world because of these rules. Now that I've discussed some of the negative effects of living in a controlled community, I'm going to talk about some unnecessary skills that we learn at school. Now it's important to realize that in the majority of jobs, you will not be writing papers or cramming for exams. Job training almost always comes specifically from the job that you are working at. In review, colleges do not do a good job preparing students for post-graduation. Because they do not teach life skills, basic life skills, because they're a closed community, which has negative effects, and because they teach a lot of unusable skills, like writing papers or cramming for exams, which for some jobs is necessary. With all this said, I'd like to state that I'm not down on colleges and universities. I believe that a college education is vitally important in today's society, and there are numerous benefits to having one. In conclusion, I would encourage those of you who haven't started building credit to do so. And next time you take your car to your parents to change your oil, ask them to show you how. Or simply start saying $8 out loud every time you scan for a meal. Thank you.
So that was a song, probably hard to tell, I missed a lot of notes there. But that's a song called What Child Is This, also known as Green Sleeves, which is one of my favorite Christmas songs. But the point in playing that is because I am going to be teaching you guys the basics of how to play the guitar. So, you might be wondering, why do you care? Well, I think that guitar is great. Playing the guitar is my favorite thing to do in the world. I enjoy it a lot. I love to play. I think that it can help relieve stress a lot to be able to play music. Listening to music is great, as we heard earlier. But I think that there's something just about playing music that allows you to relieve stress and really just express yourself, which is something I really enjoy. So your next question is probably why listen to me tell you about the basics of playing guitar. I've been playing for over 10 years now, and I also taught guitar for a little over a year. So I've taught quite a few people how to play. We'll see how it goes trying to teach you as much as I can in 7 to 9 minutes. So today I'm going to talk about 3 things that I think are the most important things starting out to play guitar. First being just the basics of the guitar and how to play. The second being chords on the guitar. And the third, probably the most important in my opinion, is not giving up. So to start, I would like to talk to you about the basics of the guitar. So I'll start by telling you kind of about the parts of the guitar. So these right here are called strings. The strings are what resonate to make sound, what you play, what you hold to make different notes. The strings run from this piece, which is called the bridge of the guitar, all the way down here to the headstock, into these, which are called tuning keys. This is how you change the tension on the string to give it a different sound. From there you have, this is the body of the guitar, and this piece is called the neck of the guitar. It's rounded on the back. I don't know if you can see that, but it's flat on the front. And on the neck you have these things, which are metal. They're called frets. So each fret is put at a specific place on the neck to where when you hold, it changes the note as you play. This is called a sound pole. This allows the notes that you play and the acoustic sound that you play to go into the body and then come back out louder than it would be without that there. Without a sound pole, it would just be a block of wood, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sound that way. So the next thing is holding the guitar. Obviously you don't want to hold it like this because you can't play it. So you want to hold it like this. Most people, if you're just playing like normal chords and strumming, you can just hold it on your leg. Most guitars have this curve right here, which is meant to sit right there. If you're playing classical guitar, you put it on the opposite leg and kind of lean it this way. As far as tuning a guitar is tuned with specific notes on each string. It goes E, A, D, G, B, and then E, which allows you to have the full capability of playing full chords across the neck. You can also use, I brought mine in, this is called a tuner, but when you turn it on, it clips onto the head of the guitar, and then when you play notes, it shows what note is being played on here. That way you can adjust this to adjust the pitch of the strings so that you'll be properly in tune. The next thing is also very important. This is called a pick. You've probably seen one before. But holding the pick to play, you want to hold it with the point out between your thumb and your index finger, and you don't want to hold it super tight because it'll be really hard to play, but you also don't want to hold it so loose that you'll drop it. But then that allows you to be able to strum the strings. So now that you kind of know some of the basics about what the guitar is, we can talk about chords. So I'm just going to show you one of the most basic chords today, which is called a first position chord, and I'm going to show you a C chord. So it sounds like this, and how you play a C chord is by fretting the guitar. So when you fret a guitar, it means to hold down specific strings at certain intervals to make the notes. So for a C, you're going to hit a C, an E, the open G string, and a C on the B string. And when you hit all of those together, you get a C chord. So once you know how to play a C, you're going to want to practice to make sure that you get clear notes. If you move your fingers too much or don't hold them tight enough, you can get notes like this that aren't full notes or very choppy notes. So you want to practice hitting each note as you learn. That way you get clear notes so that you can actually tell what chord you're playing. Once you practice getting some of the notes together, you just have to keep learning chords. There's a lot of different chords that you can learn to play. But the next thing I'd like to talk about is what I think is probably the most important, which is not giving up. When I first learned how to play guitar, I got very discouraged very quickly because it can be hard. When you're first learning to play, your fingers can hurt a lot from holding down the strings because you're putting a lot of pressure on them, and your fingertips are very soft. So it can hurt a lot, they get very chapped, and it can be painful, and it can make you want to quit. You can numb that pain with ice, or Vaseline helps a lot. And that can kind of help manage the pain until you have what are called calluses, which is just buildup of dead skin on your fingertips, which make it not hurt when you play. Second, a lot of people like to say like there are specific songs that you need to learn to play guitar. I don't believe that at all. I think that the best way to learn guitar is pick songs that you like, pick songs that you enjoy, songs that you want to know how to play, and learn how to play those. Just keep working on them until you can play them well. That's the best way to play guitar, because if you don't enjoy what you're playing, you're not going to want to keep with it. It's just not enjoyable that way. So find things that you enjoy and play those songs. I think another way is learning how to read music. I brought with me to play that song. It's kind of hard to see from here, but this is called tablature. This shows you the different frets to play music, but there's also what's called sheet music. I'm sure you've seen at some point, which is notes on an actual staff. Learning to read one of those is very helpful to learn how to play guitar and music in general. So I'd suggest that you learn that. And then finally, and probably the most fun, play with other people. Find someone that you know that plays guitar and sit down and play with them, practice with them, and it'll really help you. So, in conclusion, we learned about the basics, the parts of the guitar. We learned about chords, chord structures, simple things like that, and not giving up. To end, I would like to leave you with this quote from Jimi Hendrix, one of the greatest guitarists ever. He said, "Music does not lie. If there is something that needs to be changed in this world, it can only happen through music." Thank you.
Yeah, I speak on the ukulele, and he said you have the advantage of not getting bloody fingers.
Guitar can be fun to play, but it takes a while.
Yeah, I might get an electric, electric guitar for a while. Grace, you know where the shrine at the Indian building, there used to be a music